welcome to the first Ask the Adarma Expert session for 2021. My name is Mike Barley, and it is my absolute pleasure to be your host and moderator for our QA session this afternoon. Before we start, a little bit of admin that we have this afternoon. Please, anyone that's joining us, please could you make sure that your microphone is muted if you're not speaking, or if you're not asking or responding to a question a little bit later on. Questions can be asked in the Q&A section after we've been through some introductions and a little bit about Adarma. Please feel free to raise your hand, at which point you'll be invited to unmute yourself and ask your question. We do have a couple of slides of content to get through, but we are more than happy for you to put our experts to the question as soon as we're done with some introduction. And now let's let the chicken see the nuggets. It's time to meet our experts. So meet our experts. We have been searching across our organisation for some of our most experienced colleagues, and I must say I think we've put together an amazing panel this afternoon, but I might just be a little bit biased. A massive thank you to our wonderful support team of Rachel and Kate for bringing us all together today. So I'll start with our expert introductions, and then I promise I will let someone else speak for a change. So my name is Mike Barley. I've been with Adarma for what will be about 7 years in July this year. Joined the organisation straight from university and started my career in one of our on-site 24/7 managed security operations centres. This was on-site for one of the UK's largest financial institutions. I think the government actually classifies them as a critical economic asset, which is kind of cool to be a part of that. Spent 3 years with this customer, starting as a tier 1 technical resource, and finishing my time as the senior technical resource on the team, as well as the deputy shift lead for a team of between 10 and 12 24/7 detection and response analysts. From there was part of the initial team to help build the Adarma multi-tenant managed security operations centre, which is usually based out of our key one office in Edinburgh, but at the moment is actually spread across Scotland and the UK. Basically anywhere with an internet connection we can get on our VPN, we're good to go. And yeah, we were based, that was back when we were just 8 analysts in our first customer. And nowadays I sit with the SOX customer onboarding team. And over the past year, I've been working with some of the UK's and the world's best known companies and household names, responsible for managing a small team on short engagements to plan and deploy full SIM infrastructure, onboard log sources, and develop security monitoring rules and defensive countermeasures. In my spare time, I enjoy long walks on the beach, and my special skills include talking the hind legs off a donkey. And now, enough about me, over to our next expert. Paul. Paul's one of our practice leads. How are you doing today, Paul?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me here today. So, my name's Paul Knott. I have been a practice lead at Adarma for 7 weeks, I think. So I'm one of the newbies. Prior to Adarma, I started in cybersecurity around 25 years ago as an analyst in with lots of HMG and MOD type clients. I then moved into consulting, and I consulted for around 15 years for companies like HP and DXC, so very large IT outsource clients. And then I moved into advisory services. So this is kind of like the top 4 advisory services where you talk to senior leaders of organizations about their aspirations in cybersecurity. And then from there, I moved into Symantec, where I was their CTO for Europe, Middle East and Africa. And then found my way to Adarma, where my role as practice lead, I am building out our cloud and security transformation practice. That's probably about it for me.
Awesome. That's fantastic, Paul. Thank you very, very much. Great to have you with us today. Our next 2 experts are from our professional services division, and so I'd like to extend a very, very warm welcome to Callum McConaughey and Cian Heasley. Callum, would you start us off with a bit about yourself?
Yeah, no problem, Mike. Thanks for having me. So I am a security engineer. I have worked with Adarma for a little over a year now. Before that, I did a degree in digital security and ethical hacking. And yeah, I suppose in my spare time, I like pacing up and down the length of my flat and trying to get as many walks as possible during this lockdown. Yeah, it's been quite a whirlwind year, obviously just graduating and then starting with a new company, and then obviously everything with the pandemic happening. But it has definitely been a great experience so far, and I'm absolutely loving dipping my toe into the cyber world, it seems. And yeah, hopefully in due course, I'll be like some of the others that we have in this chat that have a wealth of years and years of experience. That's the plan, at least.
Fantastic. Well, here's hoping that we have many, many successful years ahead of each and every one of us here. Thank you very much, Callum. And now over to yourself, Cian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cian Heasley. I was a chef. I went to Edinburgh College and studied HND computer security there, then went to Napier, got a degree in computer security and forensics, and started at Adarma very shortly afterwards. Been working at Adarma for, say, a little over a year and a half now. Worked on about 4 or 5 projects, so I move around a lot. Yeah, I am also hoping for many successful years at Adarma ahead of me.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, let's hope that we get to cook up a storm this afternoon. I'm just rolling with these puns today. Now you stick me in the penitentiary. Anyway, it is great to have you both with us today. Thank you very much for taking the time out to come and answer some questions. And last but not least, over to our final expert for this afternoon, Radina Damova, who can answer all things about careers with our amazing team. Radi, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Radina. I've been with Adarma for about a year and a half now. Prior to that, I've been in recruitment, I think totally about 4 years now. And I used to recruit more kind of risk, finance, business kind of roles. So yeah, going into cybersecurity was very, very exciting for myself and very new as well. So I've managed to learn a lot of new things, not just, within kind of careers and recruitment, but also within cybersecurity. And, absolutely love the decision to join Adarma because it's just so different really from a lot of the other sectors where you can help with resourcing. So I'm currently looking after our graduate positions, which usually tend to be security engineers or SOC analysts, but I'm also helping out with a majority of our managed services recruitment as well. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying it, and I think that's it from me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Radi. It's great to have you with us this afternoon. And now that we've met our experts and we can start getting some of those creative question asking juices flowing, I'm going to cover a couple of slides, a little bit about Adarma, our journey so far, along with a brief overview of some of our key technologies and technology partners. And then we'll get right into the meat of the session and we will put our experts to the question. So who is Adarma? Well, our story began back in 2009 with the founding of Vakta, which means a shift on watch in Old Norse, by our current Chief Technology Officer, Nathan Dornbrook. By October 2012, the startup had grown to a team of 12 people, now including our ex-interim CEO and now our Chief Product Officer, David Calder, all of whom were very, very passionate about providing security skills to their customers. At this point, following investment from the ECS group, Vakta became ECS Security. Our mission was then, as it still is today, which is to provide security solutions that enable our customers to succeed in their core business and maximize the benefits of digitalization. To secure our customers through our unique approach and flexible methods and shared passion, which allows them to do what they do best. Leave the security to us. You guys focus on what you guys do best. And to align to our customers' missions in true partnership, helping them to understand and address the threats that they face. Between the years of 2012 and 2018, ECS Security's team grew to over 200 people, carrying on our mission to provide high-quality security solutions to customers through our professional services, through our managed services, and our best-of-breed technology partnerships. Our customers include some of the UK's and the world's best-known brands and household names across finance, retail, e-commerce, and insurance sectors. And I'm not kidding. These are household names that you would probably interact with on a near daily, if not weekly basis. And these customers rely on us as they are trusted and dependable partners to support them in delivering threat management solutions. More recently, in 2019, the ECS Security Management team performed a management buyout and we rebranded to Adarma, now presented as an independent autonomous company to further accelerate the growth that we have enjoyed in the recent years. Adarma is now one of the leading independent security companies in the UK with a solid base of FTSE 350 customers, several key strategic technology partners, and a rapidly growing, highly experienced team of over 250 staff. We were Splunk's Partner of the Year in 2019 and have recently actually just been recognised as one of their top tier professional services partners, one of only 2 in the UK, and we continue to deliver sustainable, quality assured security services. As with VACTA, our company name continues to underpin everything that we do here at Adarma. For those of you who, like myself, are maybe not so fluent in Latin, Adarma roughly translates to 2 arms. And the idea is that we stand shoulder to shoulder with our customer organizations through both the good times and the bad. We want to be more than just another third-party supplier. We are your dependable long-term security partners. Oh, a little bit about what we do. We here at Adarma, we take a relatively holistic approach to threat assessment and management, and we genuinely believe that a blended approach that includes compliance, risk, and threat-based views is essential to preparing the cyber defences of our customer organisations. From there, we can provide a wide range of services to bring some real defensive firepower to bear on behalf of our customers and help them realise their long-term strategic cybersecurity goals. So whether you're looking for a fully managed end-to-end 24/7 detection and response function, you're maybe looking for something to complement your existing cyber arsenal with that little bit extra firepower, or maybe you're just looking for some expert guidance on how to overcome specific cybersecurity threats that are facing your organization. Regardless of your situation, we at Adarma have plenty service offerings to meet your requirements, and we can tailor our offerings to make sure that we're providing bespoke solutions that actually work for our customers and answer their cyber conundrums. A little bit about some of our key technologies and technology partners. So the technology we use, this is all the technology that we use to underpin the majority of our offerings, along with our technical partners. And it's our belief that these technologies and our partners definitely represent the best in breed of technology. So right up the top there, first and foremost, is our security information and event management platform, Splunk. And at its core, Splunk turns machine data into answers. Splunk can give you the answers that you need to solve your toughest IT, security, and business challenges. Splunk is a relatively core part of what we do here at Adarma. We've been using it to power our managed security operations centers for almost a decade. And not only do we have some incredibly qualified technical people here at Adarma, we have some of the most qualified technical Splunk resources in the world. Sorry, resisting the temptation to do the real Jeremy Clarkson, in the world. But whether you have a Splunk deployment that manages data in the range of terabytes per day, or you may be interested in our cloud offering to reduce the total cost of ownership while still retaining that monitoring firepower, or maybe you've never had a SIM before and want to know more, we can do it all. In terms of our SOAR technologies, that's our security orchestration, automation, and response, we are constantly evaluating how we can make our offerings and services that bit more compelling. And so really recently, we've been investing in our SOAR toolsets from both ServiceNow and Splunk. Essentially, we let our technology do the heavy lifting so that our dedicated teams of analysts can spend more time doing what they do best, investigating. ServiceNow Security Operations allows organizations to streamline security activities to ensure a relatively consistent response under the most pressurized of conditions. We have dedicated teams of people that specialize in ServiceNow SecOps to turbocharge your deployment and turn it into a lean, mean, orchestrating and coordinating machine. We are also using Splunk Phantom within our Edinburgh-based multi-tenant managed security operations center to deliver some incredible efficiency savings, reducing things like our mean time to alert resolution from around about 90 minutes to just under 20. Our use of Phantom to complement our managed detection and response service is revolutionary, and I mean that. Like legitimately, we were the first organization in the world to use Phantom in a multi-tenant environment like we do. So much so that when we asked Splunk how much it was going to cost us, their sales team had to go away and build a bespoke pricing model just for us because nobody had ever asked before. And when it comes to our technology, we are continually pushing boundaries like this and leading the way to a brighter tomorrow. In terms of our vulnerability management, we use Tenable as our VM system to help our customers identify, investigate, and prioritize the remediation of vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. Using Tenable's predictive prioritization, we can ingest and correlate vulnerability data, threat intelligence, and then apply all sorts of really cool things like machine learning and data science to help organizations actually focus their time and their effort on the biggest risks that are facing them today. Tenable also lends itself to some of the more specialized areas of vulnerability management, such as PCI, ASV, container security, so Docker containers, that kind of thing, along with web and industrial applications. In terms of our endpoint detection and response technologies, we have partnered with 1E Tachyon to provide both our own security teams and those of our customers with the tools that they need to rapidly respond to security threats by creating a framework that allows them to quickly and efficiently interrogate the status of endpoints. And because of the way it's architected, we've actually found Tachyon to have really significant scaling and efficiency advantages over many of its competitors. And using something, it's got its RESTful API included, which means actually it can integrate with a lot of our wider ecosystem, including the likes of Splunk and ServiceNow. And then finally, last but not least, CrowdStrike, definitely the leader in cloud-delivered endpoint security. So leveraging things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, the CrowdStrike Falcon platform can offer us that instant visibility and protection we need across an entire enterprise organization, whether your assets are on or off the network. Excuse me, seamlessly unifies with next generation antivirus and definitely has best-in-class endpoint protection and response, which is then backed with 24/7 managed threat hunting. Its cloud infrastructure and its single agent architecture definitely helped reduce the amount of complexity required to deploy such far-ranging solutions, as well as adding scalability, manageability, and speed. Okay, so there we've done our little bit about Adarma. We are now going to actually move on to ask our experts some questions. So it's time to put our experts to the test. If you would like to ask a question, you feel free to use the raise your hand option, at which point you will then be invited to unmute yourself and ask your question. Alternatively, if you've got a lot going on in the background or just don't want to speak, please feel free to post your question into the chat, and one of our moderators will let us know. Right. What we'll do then, does anybody have any questions? Have we got any questions so far? Sorry, it's probably worth mentioning that when I'm in presenter mode like this, I can't actually see the chat, so I might need someone to kind of just point me in the right direction. Oh. Okay, well, whilst we start getting that organised, we do have a handful of questions that were asked during registration. So what we'll do is we'll start with a few of those, and we'll allow those creative juices to start flowing. I think one of the more interesting questions that we were asked ahead of today's session is whether or not there are roles for, neurodiversity within cybersecurity. I think it's actually a really interesting question. My partner is neurodiverse as well, also studying in cybersecurity. So I think this is maybe one for Paul.
Yeah, it's a topic close to my own heart as well. So my eldest son has ADHD, so it's something I've invested a fair bit of time in getting to understand. So I think the bit that I've picked up on over the years and working with quite a few kind of managed services teams is there's been a bit of a trend which has come to light where people on the autistic spectrum seem to be very, very good at analyst roles. And some of I also represent a managed services forum with all the kind of major managed services companies in the UK, and they all confirm that it's the same, that it's part of the process where an analyst delves into a problem and keeps continuing on that journey to get to the point of resolution. And it fits that mindset of people on the autistic spectrum. So yeah, it's certainly something I'm passionate about enforcing and making sure that we do make sure we have opportunity for everybody within Adarma and the wider industry. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think there's still a lot more discovery to be done on it.
Yeah, Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. How about yourself, Radhi? Do you have anything to add? How do we look to support anyone that's maybe neurodiverse within our organisation?
Yeah, so what I would say is certainly, I think we've noticed that in the past. So I think when someone starts with us, there are different kind of tests that they can do with HR. So it's actually going to be more kind of HR rather than recruitment that will help out. But I know there's, different things that we can help with. And of course, discussions that can be had with managers as well. One of the things I can definitely say is, if people are unaware, is that basically everyone technical within Adarma will report into a talent development manager rather than, a technical person. And I think that's actually quite good because it means that talent development manager, all they really care about is, supporting your career, but also your personal needs, whatever they might be. And they're really there for support as well. So obviously, if there's anything, that you want to share or anything that, feel is maybe slightly different from, someone else, they're there to support you as well. So yeah, I would say different good ways of supporting.
Fantastic, fantastic. And yeah, absolutely on Radhi's point there with the talent development managers, it's nice having a manager that feels like they're actually invested in me doing me, rather than, oh, it's technical this or technical and it's results driven. It's nice feeling like I've got a manager that actually cares about how well I do and how well I do what I do, which is, it's really nice. Here's one for you, Callum, and perhaps by extension, Cian. Maybe, because you guys are more technical within Adarma, maybe you guys could give us an overview as to what is a typical day like for you guys? Callum, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll jump on that. So currently I'm working with one of the probably the biggest financial institutions in the UK. So it's definitely something very interesting to get to start working with that client. So for a typical day, obviously with the pandemic, things are slightly different, but we normally start with a Teams stand-up call. So we would all get a chance to kind of still have that social interaction, which you now miss out on as a team. You kind of miss out on the 5-minute chats you'll have when you're all nipping to get a coffee, have lunch together. So it's nice to have that at the start of every day, just have a catch up. Obviously, some of it is dedicated to work, but a lot of it is just about seeing how everyone is, making sure that everyone's all right, and just everyone still looking out for each other. So you still have the kind of team ethos there. From that, I'll normally jump into my technical work. So for me, a lot of what I do is like onboarding, which involves taking the security logs from a bunch of different applications and putting them into our Splunk tool, which is incredibly fun for me. I get to constantly learn about new tools and new applications. I get to speak to experts because they're helping integrate, which is great because you're learning from amazing people who know exactly what they're talking about, and you'll pick up so much from them. After that, when I would have these meetings, it would be a lot of troubleshooting. A lot of the time, it's not as seamless as you think, obviously integrating tools together. I mean, it's just classic computing there. So yeah, there's a lot of problem solving and troubleshooting, which I absolutely love. If there's some sort of challenge and you need to do some sort of crazy workaround, yeah, I'm all for that. And then normally as well, when you have problems, you're reaching out to your team as well. So just like if you're in an office environment, you'd nip over to someone's desk and say, can I get a hand with this? So we're still being able to do that, obviously just virtually. So you still, again, it's the social aspect. And then from there, normally stay out the day with another call at the end of the day, just to see what has everyone managed to get to and what we managed to achieve as a team. So yeah, all in all, it's normally every day is a bit different, but yeah, they're all really, really fun.
Fantastic. How about yourself, Cian?
I just wanted to circle back really quick to the talent development manager. It's been very helpful over the last year because it's been a stressful year. So even aside from neurodiversity or anything else, it's been really helpful to have a point of contact with somebody to speak to about, how are things, like, do you have everything you need at home to function? So I've been able to get, office supplies and things that I need. So just wanted to put that in there as well. So an average day for me, I've done 4 or 5 projects over the last year and a half. So while they're all similar in, they're security related, it's very different from project to project. So in some, I'll be writing detections for adversary behavior. So we'll be looking at what would this attack look like in logs, and we'll come up with a way to detect artifacts within the logs themselves, or little parts of the logs that could show that somebody has attempted an attack or there's been a successful attack. And I really love that kind of work. It appeals to sort of the fan of detective fiction or investigative sort of process in my mind. Right now, it is very much, I'm working on a project where it's whatever needs to be done. So that's also fun, because it means that, you know, if I find one aspect of it less interesting and one aspect more, chances are I'll be swapping from one to another. So yeah, it's been good. I've been looking at different ways, similar to Callum, of making different sources of logs work with each other, different tools working with each other, and different ways of analyzing the output of all of that, so that everything is secure and safe at the end of it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, that's it again.
I was just gonna say, because I know you can't see the chat, we have had a question from Tomasz asking how long do the projects take on average, and do you get to choose them? So again, either for Kian or for you know, someone else to answer, maybe Callum.
Kian, Callum.
If Callum wants to go first, or we can both tackle it.
I'll go. I'll jump after you if you want.
So, in my experience, anywhere between, say, 6-7 months for me, and as short as a month, as short as a week, actually, in one case. If something needs doing and I'm not currently aligned to a project, I'll usually discuss with my TDM what options there are, or what's available, or what's coming in the future, say. I've had some breaks where I've done training, which has been really nice. I've had some breaks where I've done some work internally for the company, which has also been a lot of fun to get to see some of the behind the scenes, help out with, you know, bits of work. So yeah, really variable, in my experience anyway, personally, between, I'd say, a week and 7 or 8 months.
Fantastic. Callum, how about yourself?
Yeah, I've had probably a slightly different experience. So just because of the size of client that I'm currently working for, and we're quite deeply enrooted within them, the projects I work for are all for the same client, just dealing with different vendors and integrating with their wider network, I suppose. So currently, I think I've been there for 8 months, but I think I'm speaking to other people in the team, it's one of these where you can be there for multiple years, which is, for me, ideal. It's great. You're obviously speaking with the same people, and you get to really know your client extremely well, so you can work a lot better with them, I suppose.
Fantastic.
Just to add to that, I think kind of in my experience of consulting over the years, I think the one thing that differentiates it from working for an end user organization is that varied amount of technologies you get to have access to. So it could be that if you work in an end user organization, you might have one project a year. So it could be a firewall upgrade that you have to plan and schedule and get funding for and manage stakeholders. Typically, when you're doing consulting, that kind of boring stuff has already happened. So the consultants, who are really the experts, go in with a shorter time period. So it's a lot more exciting, the work they're doing. And then once that piece of work's finished, you can spin off and work for another client. So I was never one that wanted a permanent desk in an office with my own mug and all the office politics that go along with it. That has never been anything I've ever wanted to do. So having the ability to flick between different clients and different durations and different technologies, that's certainly what brought me into consulting. And there's a fantastic career progression as well. So you can start off doing engineering if that's where you're interested in, maybe on traditional networks. You may decide that cloud technologies are something that interests you because they're the kind of next gen type of technologies. You might think that kind of threat hunting is something that's interesting to you, going to track down adversaries and making sure we can protect ourselves from them. And then there's testing avenues around pen testing or vulnerability management. I think as soon as you get your foot in the door with a career in cyber, you can really choose which avenue you want to go down.
Yeah, so many options. I definitely think that's definitely something we've got in common there, Paul, is that we both really enjoy the flexible nature of the roles that we do. Been with Adarma for 7 years now, which sounds like an awful long time to a lot of people. But that's it. That's definitely one of the things that I enjoy about this role the most, is that I'm sent to different customers multiple times a year. So we get to see how the big behemoths that, have been here for, since Noah was a lad, how they function, how they operate, how their processes work together. And then we get to go and look at, new challenging organizations that are really looking to disrupt their industry and see how radically different their way of doing things is. Yeah, it's definitely, and just something that I enjoy about the role is, typically I'm on like 12-week engagements. At the moment, I'm working with one of our first internationally headquartered companies out in Norway. So aside from the downside to COVID is that there's no business travel, but in any given week, as I'm speaking to teams in Norway, in Denmark, in Germany, in Sweden, and slightly less excitingly, Edinburgh. So there is plenty of diversity in roles that are available. Right, have we had any other questions, Radi?
Yes, sorry, it took me a while to unmute myself there. So yeah, we do have a question from Katie. So she's asking, what are the biggest challenges that you face in your role? So maybe I suppose each of us could probably say a bit about that.
Would you like, sorry to put you on the spot, Radi, but would you like to start us off?
Yeah, no, of course. I suppose, for myself, the biggest challenge is I think it's kind of a well-known fact that I think there's about 3 million cybersecurity roles a year that are left unfilled. Yeah, I think we are starting to see more and more applicants every year. But I would say it is quite difficult still sometimes. So obviously with the graduate roles, it is a little bit easier. But I think when we start recruiting at that kind of mid to senior level, it is just more difficult to find a specific skill set for the service or practice we are looking for. So I suppose sometimes the challenges that we face are looking at people that have a lot of absolutely brilliant experience, but that has obviously brought them to a certain level that they're looking at, and we might have something where we don't have as much of that experience, and there's obviously some changes will happen when it comes to the experience, salary, etc. So I suppose these are some of the challenges, but again, as I said, I think things are starting to be a lot more optimistic, a lot more people getting into cybersecurity. I suppose even us as a company, one of the things we're trying to do this year is to go into schools and speak literally with kids that are still in secondary school, I would say, and kind of try and get them excited about cybersecurity. So yeah, I suppose the work comes with some challenges, but yeah, a lot of positives as well.
Fantastic. Paul, how about yourself? What would you say are the biggest challenges that you face in your role?
I think mine is just spinning plates, and keeping them spinning is the biggest challenge. That, along with having enough hours in the day to get everything done. Those are my two biggest. So I guess with my background as a CTO, it's I think managing clients' expectations and working with clients on helping them ensure their security posture has always been kind of where my forte is, and I think keeping up with the technological change is a big challenge, especially when certainly when I worked at Symantec, their portfolio was around 70 different products. So and that kind of ranged across all of the cybersecurity market, the majority at least. So it's kind of keeping to grips with what the business drivers are for a client, what they're trying to achieve, and then how we can help them, whether it's around professional services or whether it's around technology. So it's constantly evolving, and I think that's another reason why it's an exciting industry to be in.
Oh, just on that point there, Paul, do you ever feel that you get ahead of the game, or do you feel that, we're always kind of playing catch up, or a bit of a mix?
I think interesting.
Sorry to put you on the
No,
spot.
no, it's good. It's good. I think if you're talking around adversaries, so being ahead of adversaries, or I think we're always playing catch up. So some of the biggest breaches and biggest incidents we've seen are new things. They're 0-day attacks that we don't have any experience with. So I think we can always think we're ahead of the game in that respect. But there was a change in the way we were marketing security a few years back, where we stopped saying about preventing threats, and we were saying about how we detect threats, and the fact that it's not if you get hacked, it's when you get hacked, and it's how you respond to that that makes an organization good. So talking more about cyber resilience than protecting ourselves from attackers. And I think that's probably the way we should approach security these days. And it's how we mitigate risks rather than always thinking we can defend against them. I think on the sales side, I think there's a lot of good technology around. I don't think I'm ever keeping up because there's so many different aspects to it. But yeah, it's an enjoyable industry to be in when the biggest issue you have is keeping up with technology. So you certainly never get bored, put it that way.
Oh, fantastic. Cian, Callum, what do you guys think? What are the biggest sort of challenges that face you guys in your roles?
I would say for me personally, the biggest challenge is also the thing I probably love most about the job, and it's the constantly learning. It's the new technologies that you're dealing with on honestly your daily basis. So although I don't have to do a complete deep dive into the technologies themselves, I do have to gather an understanding to understand how they work and how I'm going to be able to integrate. And that for me is just amazing. As you say, you're dealing with some massive technologies, some things that you've pretty much seen your entire life, and you're getting to play around with them and speak to these experts. And yeah, I literally love that. It's the constantly learning. As Paul said, you're never a dull moment. You're always excited, and yeah, I absolutely love that.
Fantastic. And Cian, how about yourself?
At the risk of repeating Paul and Callum, staying current, taking the time to see what's happening in the world of cybersecurity, reading the news, keeping up on various chats in Slack, in other forums where people are discussing threats or threat hunting or new adversary techniques, anything like that. Also quite sort of dull challenges in the last year. My internet service provider isn't great, so just staying connected to the internet is a challenge some days. Managing my little home office, stuff like that, making sure that I actually get up and stretch my legs sometimes. All of that is also a challenge, but less interesting, but definitely still a challenge.
No, fantastic. I think everyone's kind of covered off the challenges I was going to list. I suppose the biggest challenge that's facing me at the moment that hasn't already been discussed is learning to talk a little bit less. Although no one's complained about that yet. But there's still plenty of time. There is still plenty of time. Just before we look at any other questions that have been asked, Radi, I have one for you. Asked before we came along to the session today, was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what our graduate roles look like. When do we hire for them? Do we go through recruitment drives periodically, or do we recruit as and when people are interested?
Yeah, absolutely. Just I think that will probably cover one of the questions we just got sent as well from Gary. So it was a question for Callum, but I suppose I'll cover some of that because it's connected again to the roles, and then maybe Callum can step in afterwards and say. But so the question from Gary was also connecting to what you just asked me, which was how did Callum come to work for Adarma? Was it as simple as the normal applying interview route? So yeah, I suppose I would say, yeah, usually it is. So a lot of our roles we would advertise on LinkedIn, on the Adarma website, and I think it goes out about 10 other different platforms as well, like JobServe, etc. So I suppose that's one of the ways to apply. Another way to either apply or at least kind of, you know, get a bit of an introduction chat with us is if you email our careers inbox, which is careers@adarma.com. So again, we get a lot of emails. Some are for, you know, people that are in, you know, the, let's say, kind of medium to senior level of their careers. Some are people looking for, you know, graduate roles. Some are even people that are still in school as well. So that's another way. I suppose when it comes to the roles themselves, what's been happening usually is we would get a list of roles that we know already we'll be recruiting for during the year. And obviously with those ones, sometimes we'll carry out interviews even well in advance, sometimes even 2-3 months in advance. Within our managed services, so within the SOC, because a lot of it is driven from demand, a lot of the engagements, as you can probably confirm, Mike, are, you know, 3-4 year long. So because of that, it is all driven on demand. So usually if you see a job advertised for a SOC analyst, it is usually for an immediate start as well. So I suppose, yes, some roles we would kind of, you know, advertise now and look for people to start a bit later in the year. But especially this year, I would say majority of the roles are for immediate start. So yeah, I suppose in that aspect, you see them advertised. If there's something else that maybe you've seen on our website, you don't see a role about it, but you want to chat with us, I would say the other ways to get in touch with careers. So yeah, hope that answers that question. So then I'll ask Callum about how he come to work to Adarma, and was it as simple as a normal applying interview route?
Yeah, so obviously just over about a year since I've now worked for Adarma, and I think the entire interview kind of process or recruitment process was about a month and a half, 2 months, roughly took over the Christmas period as well. So I think that's why there was a slight delay. Yeah, I mean, it literally was as simple as doing the application online. There was like a few different tests that had to be sat, and then there was a presentation you had to do at the end, which was about Splunk and how you can make that work. I will say, obviously, I still got it quite burned into my brain about all the different applications that I sent off, and like many people probably sent off hundreds of applications. I will say that within Adarma, I felt genuinely so supported throughout the entire recruitment process. Raddy and the team, I believe it was Ross who was helping me with my recruitment, and if I hadn't heard from him in about a week, I'd be getting a phone call telling me that everything's going all right. Don't worry about anything. We're still there. So just having that kind of like constant feeling that you were being supported and that someone was checking up and making sure that everything was going smoothly, in comparison to like other places where I'd apply to and you wouldn't hear back for a month or a month and a half, and then it'd be like a rejection or something. Yeah, definitely made me feel like I was making the right choice. And then when I even came through for the final stage interview, just seeing everyone around the office and the way they were acting, I was like, yeah, this is perfect for me. I need to pass this interview now. So
yeah, I can definitely add just to what Callum said. So yeah, I think with Callum's role, for example, it was we already knew that we'll be looking for, you know, 3 or 4 engineers to join us around this date. So with his process, again, we, you know, kind of took a little bit more time, especially, you know, if you are still in university, it can take a little bit longer. So yeah, I would usually say if you are still in education, usually it would take about a month and a half, a couple of months. But then if it's for an immediate start role, usually within kind of 3 weeks. And yeah, most of the roles include a technical test, phone interview, and final interview. And obviously for the more senior roles, it's a phone interview and a final interview, which usually again has a presentation as well. So just so you know, Mike, there are quite a few questions coming up. So are you happy for me to go along with those? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So there was one which I missed earlier, which was what is the quickest way to get your foot through the door in Adarma? So I suppose maybe me and Paul can cover that one. So I can cover it
Sounds good.
specifically for Adarma, and then maybe Paul can say more in cybersecurity with his experience. So I would say, obviously, if you have done a degree in cybersecurity, in computer software, information security, etc., that is the easiest way. But we do at the same time speak with people that have maybe gone just, kind of the college route and then maybe done their Security Plus CompTIA or one of the other CompTIA courses. So any kind of additional courses that you've done to your education will be very helpful to get your foot in the door. I suppose, Paul, from kind of your experience in the past, is there any kind of other ways that people can get into cybersecurity relatively quickly?
Yeah, so it's my biggest current challenge is resourcing, actually, and I think in the last less than a week I've done about 16 interviews. And to be honest, it's so my degree I did part-time while I worked at the same time. So I didn't go off to university. I obviously see there's benefit to doing that. To me, it was all about experience. So it was about hands-on experience in whatever way you can. And I guess the one unintended consequence of COVID and the one positive, I guess, that I've seen out of it.
Oh.
Is as free of charge on the internet. So I know, for example, Fortinet are doing that, and I think Palo Alto Networks are doing something similar. So they're making their kind of introductory courses available on the internet. So to me, that is a self-starter. They're self-motivated. They don't need to be kind of spoon-fed resources. And that's certainly in consulting. That's what you want. You want somebody that can hit the ground running and that will really kind of go off and learn what they need to learn to be able to engage with the client. So it's not all about formal education for me. I certainly don't learn in that way. I learn by experience. If you can pick up, I've got a machine next to me, an old HP server, and put ESX on it and do some virtualization and spin up a couple of different types of machines. And there's loads of resources out there. And if I see that sort of thing on a CV, that draws my attention. As far as getting into the recruitment piece, I think often it's about, it might be a numbers game. It might be certainly applying to as many as you can, but equally trying to get introductions from people that you might know in the industry. So if you know someone that may have been a couple of years above you or that did a similar college degree that's one of your alumni from college, if they could introduce you to a potential employer, and even if it's about having a conversation with me about how we could improve upon your CV, I'm happy to do that if that helps people. But yeah, be creative, I think, is probably the summary. Try and be creative about how you get into these things.
I completely agree with Paul, and I suppose the only thing I was going to add to that as well is that it's actually quite rare for me to get messages from candidates on LinkedIn. I would have expected more people to just feel free to approach us directly as well. So yeah, absolutely feel free to do that as well. Even for example, if any of the questions are not answered at the end of the session, just because I see we've got 10 minutes to go, yeah, feel free to reach out to, let's say, myself, Mike, anyone else, and then we'll be able to help out. But yeah, definitely, I think, feel proactive, and feel free to reach out to people as well. So there's one other question from earlier. How do you keep up with changes within the industry? For example, new technologies, etc. So maybe a question for Paul and Mike, since you guys have been with us for quite a while now. I'm sorry, well, Paul within the industry and Mike within Adarma.
Paul, would you like to take that?
Yeah, why not? So I bookmark a few websites that I check quite frequently. So there's things like the Register is pretty useful. Forbes has a decent amount of kind of business related content. Tech Beacon is another good one. CSO Magazine, again for the business related kind of leadership type ones. Yeah, there's plenty of websites out there, and LinkedIn is also really good. If you follow the right people on LinkedIn, then there's some fantastic resources. And I tend to, I'm a bit sad in the fact that I'll look in the evening or first thing in the morning, and then I'll just send myself a link to my work email box, and then I'll check it when I'm in the office, and I'll save it to my knowledge folder, and that knowledge folder just grows, and it very rarely gets read. But I know I've got it, and I'll think, I just saw, where was that guidance I had about Microsoft security standards? And I'll flick over to the folder and it'll be there, ready for me. So yeah, kind of building a repository of your own resources of information is quite useful. But yeah, I thought actually, I probably think LinkedIn's probably the best one I can think of at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, so some fantastic sources there, and definitely some of the sources that I'll have a look at as well. Myself I'm maybe a little bit more social media orientated. So my big sources of InfoSec news probably come from Twitter and Reddit of all places. There is a fantastically active InfoSec community on Twitter. We've got folk like Gossy the Dog, Malware Tech Blog, amongst many others who are very, very active, holding positions like Gossy the Dog sits with Microsoft's threat intelligence. And so quite often when we see tweets from him, we are hearing from the horse's mouth itself. Yeah, Twitter and social media can be an absolute fantastic source of the latest developments. Obviously, Twitter with your 140 character limit, you're not going to get a huge amount in one go. But it's very, very often is the stepping stone that leads you down that rabbit hole to find out what the deal is. Being slightly more maybe sort of technical, hands-on with our customers as well is I'll get to hear a lot of customer chatter. You may or may not be aware that there are like threat intelligence communities that are geared towards specific industries. So we've got like the FSI's Act for financial services, and it's only shared with financial services. Obviously, we're not financial services, but we work with a number of customers in financial services, and so we tend to find a lot of emerging threat intelligence coming to us out of those channels as well. Radi, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we do have a couple of other ones. So I suppose one for Callum and Kian. As much as you do want to share, but any tips for the Splunk presentation?
Can I go first for this? Is this okay? So my presentation, I tried to think sort of outside the box. I tried to think of how to make an impression. So I looked for weird data sets, weird sets of data, and I found UFO sightings in America. So
you did the UFO presentation.
I did a UFO presentation for Harry and Lindsay. So it basically had the dates and the longitude and latitude of different sightings and the time. So I was able to put all of that into Splunk and show the best day of the week to see a UFO, the best month of the year to see a UFO, the best state in the US to see a UFO, statistically speaking. So yeah, that was my presentation. They were both surprised and said that it definitely made an impression, and I got the job, so it worked out pretty well.
I would also just echo that. Just think of something unique. I know, I think with Splunk, you can obviously go away and look at the tool, and it will give you sort of your generic, like a little bit of like training almost. I would suggest go find an interesting data set, go find something you're maybe interested in or something that will make a bit of a splash, because that way you obviously are going to get remembered, and it shows that you haven't just followed someone else's rules and examples. You went away and yeah, you made it interesting, and you've obviously enjoyed yourself.
And I suppose, yeah, I was just going to say, following on that, Katie did ask, I thought it had to be on performance and event logs. So I suppose from a technical perspective, what do you guys think?
Not necessarily. Obviously, if it's related to the subject matter, that's obviously a good sign. During, because I interviewed with Adarma for so long ago, I didn't actually do the presentation. I built like a wee cup that held an egg and we threw it off the top of Hill Street. But I've often thought to myself, if I was going to do this again, I would deliberately go and pick something ridiculous. Like I'd walk into this interview and be like, do you guys like football? Fantastic. I'm going to tell you who's going to win the SPL next year. And the premise would be I'd take all the football standings from the past 10 years or so, stick them into Splunk, do the statistical analysis, and then rock it. I could be completely wrong, but at the same point, that level, I think for me, that level of kind of confidence and showing that I can take a relatively standard industry tool and make it do something really, really cool, that actually might have real life implications. If I was going to do that again, that's how I would do that, I think.
I suppose from a recruitment perspective as well, to say from what I understand and what I've heard from different presentations is the data. I mean, you can just, I think, get the data from the Splunk website, so you can just use what's available on the Splunk website. But at the same time, you can go and as Mike said or Kian said, just get your data from somewhere else. It's more about how you analyze it, what kind of dashboards you create as well, and just make something interesting. I would say it's fairly open presentation, so it's up to you really. I suppose that I think kind of last question that I can see was where do we think the company is headed in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we've got time for one more. So before I pass over to everyone else, the honest answer is I don't know. When I started 5 years ago, I certainly didn't imagine us being here. I certainly didn't imagine myself doing the things that I'm doing right now. If 18-year-old me going through high school could see what I'm up to now, I'd maybe got my finger out and got here a little bit faster. What about everyone else?
Just quickly go here. Just for me personally, all the moves that we've made as a company I've seen, obviously in a fairly new entry position, all look ridiculously positive. And just the entire ethos of the company itself, when you walk around the office or even virtually and remotely, it's just such a nice environment that like a company like this should be succeeding and should be going places. So that's my hope, and that's why I try and work as hard as I can. And I know that everyone else does as well, to make sure that we're driving this company as far as we possibly can. So,
Wonderful.
Hopefully, to amazing places.
Paul, how about yourself?
So I guess it's all around growth. So it's growth into adjacent areas. So we're very well known for our work around threats. So it's kind of identifying which areas of technology adjacent to those would make sense for us to work into. So for me personally, it's around cloud. So cloud is a methodology of delivery of services which we haven't really used a lot in the past. We've done some cloud work. So part of my role is to how do we maximize our opportunities of working with our clients in their cloud adoption. But I think the key thing, and we've just said it actually, is that we don't lose the ethos that Adarma has. So within my first week, I spoke to everybody on the senior leadership team for an hour. And in each meeting, the thing they said to me was, how can they help me be successful? So it's not about how I can make them successful. It's how they can help me. And having that sort of resource available, it can only ever be a positive. So even though we do aspire to grow, we can't lose what is the really important part of what makes Adarma so good.
Awesome. Fantastic answer there, Paul. Right, to round us out for the session, last but not least, Kian.
Keep it short and sweet. I hope the company continues to grow. And like Mike was saying about clients in Norway, I hope there's some opportunities for travel in the future.
Here's hoping.
We love it.
All righty. So that is us absolutely spot on 4 o'clock. So let's wrap up for the session. So thank you to everybody for attending our first Ask the Adarma Expert session of 2021. We hope to have you all back with us, either in the office or online at some point in the very, very near future. If anybody does have any questions that you either think about after today's session or we didn't get the chance to get around to, as Radi said earlier, please feel free to reach out to us at LinkedIn, Twitter. You can hit up our careers inbox, careers@adarma.com. But yeah, thank you very much for taking the time today. I've been Mike. We are Adarma. and everyone has been fantastic. I hope you all keep safe, have a fantastic day, and we will see you again shortly. Cheerio, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye for now.